Okay, welcome back. Today we're talking about Prequelle. I'm very excited for this one because this is without a doubt my favourite Ghost album. Sort of the point of going back to these albums and listening to them again was to give some songs that maybe I'd overlooked another chance, and also properly reevaluate whether or not Prequelle is my favourite, because this has always been my favourite Ghost album since I started listening to Ghost. There was a time very early on where I would have said Opus was my favourite, but that wasn't very long, and for as long as I can really remember, having listened to this band, this has been the album that is my favourite, that is the best one. This has been the album that I'm always able to listen to. I can put it on at any time, and every single song on this thing is just great. There are many things about this album that make it much more distinct from the others, and when I was listening to it again for this video, and in fact every time I listen to it, I'm just blown away with how good it sounds. The songs are the best they've ever been. The mix on this album is incredible. This is the best Ghost have sounded, and I'll have to check when I finally get to Impera and Skeletor. But this album, in terms of its overall sound, is going to take some beating, because the size of this album, the scale of it, in terms of the soundscape, is just enormous. And I completely love that. I normally take quite a lot of notes so that I know what I'm going to be saying for each song, just to order my thoughts. But for this one, I was listening to it, I didn't even really take any notes at all. I've listened to this album so many times. Like, I wrote some notes for Ashes, and then as soon as I got to Rats, I just wrote no notes needed. So without further ado, we shall get into it. The first track is Ashes. This isn't part of my ranking as it's just the intro, but immediately this album is different from the others. If you compare this to the other intros, like Deus Culpa, which is this ambient, warm intro, or you compare it to the intro to Spirit, which is sort of cartoonishly spooky, but it's still quite warm, and the campiness maybe has like a friendliness about it, evoking those childhood Scooby-Doo soundtracks. Or you think about Infestissimum, which the main takeaway from that intro is how grand and epic it is. It's signalling that this is a bigger album than Opus. We've got scale and grandiosity now in the music. Ashes doesn't have warm ambience. It doesn't have, comically spooky elements. The tone Ashes establishes is one that is actually very creepy, and there is a horror element present in this track and really throughout many of the other songs. And there's been some gothic elements before, but incorporating horror, that isn't really something we've seen before. With the spooky nursery rhyme that leads into the Spokesonat melody, which is returning from Meliora. But as well as being creepy, this track also has the scale that Infestissimum has. When the rest of the band comes in with the drums and the synthesizers, that melody builds into Rats really well. It's my favourite intro to a Ghost album. So at 9th place on this album, unfortunately at the bottom, we have to put See the Light. Now this track is not bad by any means. The song is grand and great. I think the groove in the verses is really great. I really like the verses a lot, actually. I think that they sound really unique for Ghost. But I think the chorus is a little bit weaker than every other track on this album. I don't think that the lyrics of drink me, eat me, then you'll see the light, I don't think they're really very hooky, and I don't think they convey all that much. But melodically, I really love this song. I just think it's brilliant. But something has to go last, and unfortunately, in this case, that's See the Light. But this would not be at the bottom if it was on another album. At 8th place, I don't like putting any of these at the bottom because I love all of these tracks so much, but Helvetus Fonster is at 8th place. This was really quite hard to decide on because actually the songs that are at places 6, 7 and 8 are all roughly the same quality. I can't really distinguish them. And, ask me on another day, I probably would have put maybe this above what's going to be at 7th place or 6th place, but I've just listened to the album and this is what felt right for me to do. One thing to say is I just love these instrumental tracks. We haven't had instrumentals that are this extended and this long in this format, and it's brilliant that Ghost did this because they're so good at writing them, and it's a real shame that to this day we haven't got another long form instrumental The closest thing being Umbra, but that still technically is a song. I really wish that Ghost would bring this stuff back because Helvetis Fonster just takes you on a bit of a journey. I love the 6/8 feel. It starts off slow and mysterious, building itself up. Then the piano break comes in and kind of throws us into the deep end a little bit. The synths come in and take over from the melody. And the grooves and the melodies in these middle sections are just really great. They're great fun. Another thing I noticed was that when the drums come in quite early, they have this huge sound. They're drenched in reverb. And actually, the timbre of the drums sounds very 80s. This is the first time I've been able to identify in Ghost that they have this retro sound. Beforehand, like in Meliora, for example, or something before, I maybe would have said it's old-fashioned in that it feels like old metal. It's very raw sounding, it has a raw guitar tone. But this album, instrumentally, does feel like it's evoking the 80s a lot more. But it feels like it fits because this is a prequel. This album is called Prequelle. It should feel maybe older than the previous albums. I do have a concern that going into Impera and Skeletor, we harkened back on this era of sound too much, that we embellished too much into the 80s. But for this track and for this album as a whole, and also for 7 Inches of Satanic Panic, this sound works like a charm. It fits Ghost like a glove, and it is my favourite sound from them. This is the best that they sounded stylistically for me. So yeah, Helvetis Fonster at 8, unfortunately, and at 7 we have Pro Memoria. So I think, historically I would probably put Pro Memoria below Helvetis Fonster, because Helvetis Fonster is quite complex in its structure. It has melodies that really draw you in, but I've put Pro Memoria above today because I think the melodies in Pro Memoria are just as good as they are in Helvetis Fonster, if not better. The opening melody is really great. Also, the instruments we're using, there's so much more variety than there has been in previous albums. Using strings and the piano in the way that we have, it makes this album so much more interesting than previous albums, and it also makes it feel like a proper evolution. Like this band is really growing in what it can do and what it's going to prove to you that it can do. But much like See the Light, Pro Memoria isn't really going to break into the top of these tracks ever because the verses are brilliant. I really love them. I love the piano accompaniment in the verses as well. I think that's so cool. But the chorus is a bit lacking. It's a bit repetitive, but at least each chorus is doing something slightly different with the Don't You Forget About Dying, Don't You Forget About Your Friend Death, which means that by the end of the track, the first chorus is very different to the final chorus. And there are these backing vocals and these second subject melodies that they're doing, which really escalate the drama and make it sound brilliant. But a really great song. I hate to put it at 7th. And at 6th place, again, kind of the same quality as Pro Memoria and Helvetis Fonster, is Life Eternal. This song is a brilliant Ghost ballad. I don't know what the best Ghost ballad really is. I mean, I guess you could say He Is, but Life Eternal is so different from He Is. I would never listen to Life Eternal for the same reason I listen to He Is. He Is an acoustic guitar-driven song, and Life Eternal is led by the piano. And I love that we have this variety for whatever we want. You want an acoustic one? He Is. You want a piano one? Life Eternal. Ghost can do it. And I think that knowing that Tobias sang this about his brother as well really adds another level to this song. But it isn't just an acoustic piano ballad. It builds itself up. The backing vocals in this album are just amazing. And especially on this song, they really shine. It's definitely a sad song, but it's got this core of optimism as well. This is the moment of just letting go. Letting go isn't good, it doesn't feel nice, but it's moving you on to the next chapter. And what better way to end an album than to move on to the next chapter? It just works so well. So much like Prequelle has the best intro, it has the best outro track as well. Now that I'm talking about it, maybe Life Eternal should go higher, but that would be difficult for me to justify because some of the songs coming up are just some of the best that Ghost have ever made. At number 5, I've got Witch Image. This song is quite an underrated one within their discography. It's a bit overlooked, I think. I think it's got the quality of a single and it's got the catchiness of a big Ghost hit, but it never really gets featured in the live sets, and it doesn't get the same amount of attention as the others, and I think that's a big shame, because the groove on it is amazing. And with lyrics in the chorus like "Someone's flesh is rotting tonight," harkening back to Ritual, one of the very first songs from Ghost, this just feels like a bit of old mixed in with a bit of new. And it just feels like it's thrown into the album, like, yeah, we wrote this, here you go, here's another great song. And if Ghost wrote a song like this and released it today, it would be, in my opinion, a far cry above anything else that they've written for a very long time. So yeah, Witch Image, really catchy in the verses, really catchy in the choruses, great guitar tone, great groove. What's not to love about this song? Brilliant. Right, and now we're at the top 4. So number 4 is Dance Macabre. Now, if you want my opinion, all of these top 4 songs, because you know which ones are left, are pretty much the same quality. And that's because they're the best songs that Ghost have ever written. Dance Macabre is the ultimate pop rock song. I can't really think of one that is much better than this. From the last album, Square Hammer was the breakout big mainstream single. To me, Dance Macabre completely eclipses Square Hammer. I think that it's fair to say that maybe some of the satanic elements of Ghost at this point are starting to be lost. At least with Square Hammer, we are saying, are you ready to swear right here, right now before the devil? That overtness is still present. But by this point, you don't even know this is a satanic band. And sometimes that really bothers me about Ghost. But in this case, the song is just too good. And stylistically, this fits with this album so well. This isn't really a concept album. I sort of mentioned before at albums 1 and 2 that there is a narrative being strung throughout Opus and Infestissimum that isn't really happening in Meliora. We just have a collection of really great songs. The music videos and single art have a lot of Art Deco 1930s imagery associated with them, which is great, but I don't really get that sense from the songs. In this album, whatever the theme seems to be is one to do with the plague and rats being plague carriers and being infected with the plague in the case of this song. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but this song is supposed to be about contracting the plague and then dying from it. And because we're going to die of the plague, we might as well party in, let's say, Middle Ages establishments where fun times can be sought. So this song really fits in with that theme of this album. Ghost had never written a vocal hook this good. This song, it has incredible scale, it has great groove, the drums are fantastic, the guitar solo is brilliant in this song, so intricate, and this song seems to be at the perfect tempo where you can just jump up and down to it. It feels like you can just be jumping for the whole song, which is great. Okay, at number 3 we have Faith. This song hits you like a train. I've always found the opening guitar leads to be very interesting. We have a group of 3 and then another group of 3 and then a group of 5. So it opens with 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and repeats that, and then we go into 4, 4. Don't know why that's so impactful, but it just is. The drums on those accents at the start of each division are so loud, has such a huge impact, and then it leads you into the verse riff, which is incredibly heavy. So chromatic as well. And I love the accented notes at the end of the riff, where the drums double up on the china as well. Lyrically, this song is a quintessential Ghost song. The opening lyric to this song is, "There is a scourge in the guise of sanctity, a perpetrator with a quill." First of all, I love the rhyming of all the different lyrics. I love the poetry of it. It's so evocative and cryptic. And the chorus melody is great because it kind of feels like it shouldn't work. There are some quite strange melody choices and how long the notes last for. They're not falling perfectly on each downbeat. We have dotted crotchets going on with some of these notes. And so it's quite surprising that this chorus is as impactful as it is. But the highlight of this song are the solos. The first solo is a dark and brooding solo. And following the tried and true Ghost formula that we have come to know and love from the last 3 albums, the first solo is dark, and the second solo, after the second chorus, is much brighter and doing different developments. The harmonization of the solos in this album and in this song as well are a real step up from Meliora. I remember saying that Meliora has a real improvement in its solos because of the harmonized thirds and fourths, but every guitar part in this album has more than one guitar tracked, and they're all doing different things in the solos. The bridge is really great, and I love how we end the track with the opening guitar melody, the 3-3-5 thing that we heard right at the start. Okay, and number 2 is Miasma. Another incredible instrumental track from Ghost. Definitely their best one. Truly baffling why they decided in the movie not to play this in its full uninterrupted length and instead have a bunch of dialogue over the top of it. I have no idea why they decided to do that, but at least we have the live version of it finally in the album release. The best thing about this song, okay, it's the sax solo at the end, but really the thing that makes that solo work is the build that we've had for like 4 continuous minutes up to that point. Much like Helvetis Fonster, we start off small, but Miasma actually picks up the pace very early on. It has great drive right at the start, and it continues that drive until the end of the song. Are we good? This working? I hope so. The melody of this song is across 5 bars of 4/4. This is really unusual. Another song that does this is Idiotech by Radiohead. The song is in 4, and there's 4 beats in each measure, but the melody from start to end is across 5 measures. So 20 beats. That's not normal. Normally it would only be across 4 or across 2, 2 bars of 4 or 4 bars of 4. That's probably the most common. But where you would expect the melody to end and then repeat itself in a normal song, in this song, it is extended by 1 extra bar. And the really cool thing that is doing is that it's kind of throwing you off a little bit. And you can't really keep track of exactly where you are in the song on a first listen. But the result is it's pulled you in and you're just experiencing the song gradually growing and getting more and more intense. That extra bar, more than we would expect, is escalating the tension or the drama in the music. And that main melody develops itself as well. It goes into multiple different developments before the sax solo comes in. In fact, the underlying rhythm underneath also changes a little bit before the sax solo comes in. So it's really got 2 distinct halves, this song. From the first time I'd heard this, it is a masterpiece. And that doesn't really change however many more times you listen to it. The song is just incredible, and it's a real shame that Ghost never really tried to do something like this again, because this instrumental style really works for them, and whatever they were doing around this time to make this song and Helvetis Fonster was completely new, fit like a glove, and made the best songs they've ever written. And it should be played at every single live performance of Ghost. Somehow, I managed to go to one of the few live performances where they didn't play this song. I don't know why that was. Maybe next time. But I don't want it disappearing out of the set forever, because it's one of the best. And at number 1, we have Rats. This song is just so good. Like I mentioned before, no notes needed when I listen to this song. It's just so good. This is a really heavy Ghost song. It has a seriously groovy main riff, even though it's just zeros and then 2 chords at the end. There is a real venom and hatred in the lyrics to this song, which I think is so effective. I mean, it's quite obvious what Tobias is singing about, given the court case and everything, exposing his anonymity once and for all. So yeah, you can understand why he's a little bit pissed off with his former bandmates, and this song, Rats, is definitely about them. But despite that, it fits with the satanic theme of Ghost and also fits with this plague theme that seems to be existing throughout Prequelle. There are so many highlights to this song. The pre-chorus is great. The pre-chorus builds up to that chorus so well. Definitely the best pre-chorus that Ghost have ever written, without a doubt. The melodies just continue to climb until we resolve into the chorus. And the first chorus is the opening riff that we heard, which is very, very similar to the verse riff. It's just without the repeated notes on the open string. And that first chorus is really groovy and cool, and then it has this really short guitar solo at the end, which should always end in a pinch harmonic. It's this really dark and fast run down the D minor scale. I also like that we have these little variations in the lyrics through each pre-chorus as well. The second chorus is a lot better than the first chorus, because once we hit that one, we then start having these backing vocals again. Another thing about this album, which is really great, are those backing vocals. And they're singing this second melody line after Tobias sings Rats. And that is the vocal hook for this song. That is what makes this song so catchy. After that second chorus, we then have The second solo, again, Ghost like this formula a lot. We've had one solo first, which has been quite dark, and now this second one is a little bit slower. It's a bit of a halftime solo, and it's a lot more brighter and major. The ride cymbal on the drums is really giving that solo some space to explore some ideas. The solo builds up again, and then it gets a lot faster. That brings us into the last epic pre-chorus, the last chorus, after which we have the outro, which is the most famous part of the song, and everyone's favourite, I'm convinced, which is the Spokes and that melody as a chuggy breakdown. And I can't really think of many times that Ghost have done proper breakdowns like this. This is one of the few. Normally Ghost just try and be texturally heavy, like Pinnacle to the Pit or Cerise, but this is a proper breakdown, and Ghost should definitely write more breakdowns because clearly they're very good at doing them. The melody is so unusual, it's a really weird one, which is why it works so well for a Ghost breakdown, because it's this, well, it's like Cerise, it's a really dissonant melody. So unusual for any other band to come up with. It is such a quintessentially Ghost dissonant melody. So that is Prequelle. Let me know your thoughts. Which Ghost album is your favourite? Because this one is definitely mine. This is the closest I can really get to doing analysis of these songs, because analysis videos take an awful lot longer to get out. They get claimed as well, and then blocked in certain places. So I like talking about these songs, and I like talking about them in quite technical detail, but it can be quite hard to actually put a full analysis together like that, with this only really being a hobby. So let me know your thoughts, and stay tuned for the next album. I'm not sure if I'm going to do Impera next or 7 Inches of Satanic Panic, but it'll be one of the two, and I'll be doing that, I'm hoping, for next Friday. I don't see anything stopping that, so thank you very much for watching. So like and subscribe if you enjoyed. It really does help out because this channel is tiny, and see you in the next one.